Good morning. Welcome to our first in a series of employer spotlights for Maine Department of Labor's apprenticeship program. My name is Audrey Hilton LaRue, and I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor for the Department of Labor Bureau of Rehabilitation Services. A couple of things before we get started. I'd like to remind everyone that we have interpreters for this program. Our interpreters will be alternating throughout our presentation today, so just keep in mind we will need a quick pause while they change over. Samantha Fenderson, Assistant Director of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, will be monitoring the chat box for questions, so please feel free to post questions and comments throughout the chat box, Today, we are excited to be featuring Reed & Reed, a well-respected general contracting company from Woolwich, Maine. A little backstory. I became involved as a VRC with the Department of Labor Apprenticeship Program because a motivated young man I had only recently started working with had applied for a job at Reed & Reed and was directed to their apprenticeship program. Jacob had finished high school and began the certificate program in construction technology at SMCC. He then went out west to Wyoming to work with his uncle in demolition in a paid internship opportunity. When he came back to Maine, he completed his certification and was ready for the next step. Jacob learns best with his hands, so the combination of general education and hands-on courses through SMCC and his paid internship in Wyoming prepared him for the apprenticeship opportunity he was eventually presented by Reed & Reed. We will hear more from Jacob later in the presentation. Before we turn our presentation over to our representatives from Reed & Reed, I'd like to introduce you to some of the folks in the Department of Labor who will help facilitate the conversation today. They are working hard to make our apprenticeship program accessible and available to job seekers across the state. We have Eileen Miazga, the apprenticeship specialist for the Department of Labor Apprenticeship Program, Margot Hanlon, Career Center Consultant for Bureau of Employment Services, and Peter Diplock, Assistant Director for the Blind and Visually Impaired in the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services. So Eileen, could you tell us a bit about what you do within the Department of Labor and your relationship with the apprenticeship program, as well as how someone who is seeking to enter an apprenticeship can access your services?
Good morning. My name is Eileen, and I work for the Maine Department of Labor in the Maine Apprenticeship Program. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on apprenticeship, and then we'll talk about how to become an apprentice. Registered Maine Apprenticeship is a formal, nationally recognized occupational training program that is primarily employer-driven. It has benefits for both employers and employees. Many people use the word apprenticeship to describe various training models, but not all employers are referring to registered apprenticeship. The Maine Apprenticeship Program is recognized by the U.S. Department of Labor to register employers, also called sponsors, and apprentices in Maine who meet very specific criteria. Apprenticeship is a formal training model that has been around since the Middle Ages. It is a method used to mentor and train employees as they work to master a specific set of tasks. An apprentice is a person who is learning a trade from a skilled employee, having agreed to work for a fixed length of time and receive a specific wage during that time. Apprenticeship is provided primarily through structured on-the-job learning and supplemented with formal courses in theory, academics, or technology. The Maine Apprenticeship Program works with all size employers to develop formal apprenticeship training programs. This is achieved by first registering the employer as a sponsor to ensure that they meet and will fulfill training requirements. Apprenticeable occupations are those that require a minimum of 1 year or up to 5 years or more of hands-on practical learning to become proficient. Traditionally, apprenticeships were used for people who wanted to learn the trades such as electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, and even blacksmithing. Now there are many other occupations where people are learning through apprenticeship. Some examples of apprenticeship in Maine are culinary line cook, nurse, medical assistant, line worker, manufacturing production technician, jewelry design and repair, cabinet maker, and marketing professional. Anyone an employer sponsor wants to hire can become an apprentice. Applying for an apprenticeship is the same as applying for a job. Sponsors are seeking individuals who are committed to learning skills both on and off the job. Apprentices are expected to work full-time, efficiently learn the complete range of skills outlined in their schedule of work, complete required courses with a grade of C or better, and effectively apply their knowledge learned. Consider the following factors to help you decide if apprenticeship is a good fit for you. Do you prefer to learn by doing? Sitting in a college classroom is not the only way to learn. Do you want to go to work and immediately begin receiving a paycheck? Does the idea of little or no student debt sound appealing? Are you interested in creating a career pathway instead of just getting a job? If those questions apply to you, then perhaps apprenticeship will be a good fit. The important thing to remember is that apprentices do a real job in a real workplace, and as such, you'll have real responsibilities. Your colleagues and employer will be relying on you to do quality work, and you'll receive regular feedback on your performance. The Maine Apprenticeship Program does not place candidates in employment. We work with employers to create opportunities. You will need to work with the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services or the Maine Career Centers to determine if you are ready to take on an apprenticeship, find out what jobs are available to apprentice, and prepare for employment. Apprenticeship is first and foremost employment. Sponsors invest considerable time and money in training apprentices. They seek individuals with genuine occupational interests and aptitudes and who are committed to learning new skills on the job and through formal classes, and who are reliable, responsible, self-directed workers. You will need to meet the hiring criteria of the sponsor company, prove yourself a solid candidate, and get hired. Only then can you work to become a registered apprentice. Contact information for the Maine Apprenticeship Program will be provided later in this presentation, or for more information, you can simply do a Google search for Maine Apprenticeship. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. And now we'd like to hear from Margot. Margot, are you ready?
The Maine Career Center system is a partnership of the Maine Department of Labor, local workforce development boards, and employment and training providers. Our combined services expand outreach throughout Maine to our customers, job seekers, and employers. We offer individual appointments and in-person workshops for job seeker support services such as resume writing and interview skills. For more information about our services, please see our website at www.mainecareercenter.gov. Set up an appointment with one of our Career Center consultants to begin your intake process to apprenticeship. Both businesses and job seekers must have an active Maine JobLink account in order to begin those steps towards apprenticeship. Begin by becoming a registered apprenticeship at www.joblink.maine.gov/ADA/R/R. The Maine JobLink features real-time labor market information, a training provider database to use in conjunction with career pathway guidance and resource links to aid in career planning, recruitment, and training. It allows job seekers and employers to move seamlessly from self-service to receiving help from their local career center by just reaching out. A business or job seeker interested in apprenticeship may want to speak with a Maine Career Center representative to get started. However you engage, please indicate your preferred Career Center location as well as your contact information. Maine Career Centers are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Other points of contact for Career Center staff include the counselor of the day, email address at maine.dol.careercenter@maine.gov. The hotline is 1-888-457-8883. TTY users, please call Maine Relay at 711. And finally, we offer a live chat service at www.maincareercenters.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Now we'd like to hear from Peter. Peter?
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I work for the Maine Bureau of Rehabilitation Services. The Bureau of Rehab Services consists of 3 different divisions. We have the Division for Vocational Rehabilitation, an organization that works with people who have a variety of disabilities, including those that are physical, mental, and cognitive in nature, as well as 2 divisions that work with more targeted populations, and that would be the Division of Deafness, late deafened and hard of hearing, as well as the Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Our mission is to assist job seekers and employers to address and overcome disability-related barriers to employment, and include helping people with disabilities to obtain employment, maintain employment, or to advance in employment. Something that might be of interesting note is that the Bureau of Rehab Services is the largest bureau within the Department of Labor, and we work with upwards to 5,000 job seekers on any given day statewide. Our work is performed by many well-qualified staff, as well as service contractors, and include over 65 vocational rehabilitation counselors, many community rehab providers such as Maine Medical Center, Goodwill Industries, Iris Network, and Catholic Charities, all of whom provide job development and coaching for our clients. We also employ certified American Sign Language interpreters, CART services, as well as other language interpretation services. Medical service providers are often engaged, and they offer occupational therapy, physical therapy, and mental health services and long-term supports. We offer orientation and mobility instruction and vision rehab therapy. Additionally, the Bureau of Rehab Services works directly with many, many different partners in the community, and that includes the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Education, Department of Corrections, clubhouses, public high schools, and adult ed programs. So how we assist apprentices in particular is that if you have a disability that creates barriers to employment and you're interested in seeking an apprenticeship, you would apply for our services, and then you would be assigned to work with a vocational rehabilitation counselor. Together, the 2 of you would determine the best employment pathway for you to pursue and determine what services, supports, and equipment that you will need to enter into an apprenticeship. Services that the Bureau of Rehab Services can provide are individualized and they're varied, meaning that your employment plan will be unique to your apprenticeship needs. And it may include assistance with needed accommodations, with job development and job coaching, training fees, including tuition, tools and equipment, clothing and footwear, transportation, and sometimes childcare assistance. We also assist employers when it comes to apprenticeship, as we work very closely with job seekers and can help identify potential applicants who have been screened to ensure that apprenticeship as an occupational goal of the job seeker is a good fit and that they have the requisite skills and aptitude to be able to perform the essential functions of the job, whether it be with or without an accommodation. The Bureau of Rehab Services can provide support to the apprentice and to the employer throughout the apprenticeship process and can work with the employer and the employer staff around disability education, can assist the employer with current employees who may be encountering difficulty in performing their job due to disability. And we can also help to identify resources and supports that might benefit the employer, including monetary and tax incentives. So if you are interested in accessing our services, there's a couple of ways that you can do so. Certainly one way would be to contact the local career centers. They would be able to assist you in connecting with the Bureau of Rehab Services. Or you could go to the Maine Bureau of Rehab Services website. At the website, you can find a directory of contact information for the 3 divisions, as well as information about regional offices throughout the state. And you can also get information there about applications and referral information. We will also post this information at the end of this webinar, as was mentioned. So Thank you so much for having me today. Thanks so much, everybody, for attending. And thank you, Robin and Todd, for the exciting information you're going to be sharing with us today.
Thank you, Peter.
Pause for one moment, Audrey, the interpreter.
Sure. We're going to do a little switch over.
Thank you. Sam, I don't know if you need to pin me. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Audrey. We're all set.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all. And thank you all who have spoken for all you do to help people in Maine to prepare for and locate work opportunities. And now for our featured employer and the star of the show, I'd like to introduce you to Robin Wood from Human Resources and Todd Gilley, the recruiter for Read and Read. They will give you more information on who they are and what they do. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Robin Wood. I'm the Director of Human Resources at Read and Read. And I just want to thank you all for inviting us to this event and for spotlighting our apprenticeship program. We're excited to be a partner in the apprenticeship program and also to share the story of our very first apprentice who is from the VOC Rehab program. With that, I would defer to our recruiter, Todd Gilley, and he'll give you a lot more information about Read and Read.
Good morning, folks. Thanks for, again, having us on today. My name is Todd Gilley. I have been in full disclosure with Read and Read for about 5 months now, but I do have about 18 years in the construction, hiring, and recruiting arena. So I hope today to give you a little bit more information about our company, who we are, what types of projects that we do, and why we are the employer of choice.
Read and Read is a heavy civil general contractor specializing in bridge, marine, and renewable energy projects. We offer great opportunities for career development, and apprenticeship is our newest. Some of the major projects we've completed include Bull Hill Wind, the Bath Viaduct, Colby College Student Center, Penobscot Narrows Bridge, and the Scarborough Over-the-Road Tolling Project, and we recognize that it takes skilled employees to accomplish these tasks. Read and Read recently implemented an apprenticeship program, and we'd like to introduce you to Jacob Lawrence.
Hi, my name is Jacob Lawrence. I'm a carpenter apprentice with Read and Read. I started my apprenticeship program in March. My experience has been positive, and I've learned a lot working here. I've completed over half of my apprenticeship, and I've developed new skills along the way. I look forward to finishing the program and becoming a skilled carpenter and continuing my experience.
Read and Read offers great opportunities for career development, and apprenticeship is our newest. We support on-the-job learning and are enjoying seeing Jacob succeed as he advances through his program. He's gaining confidence and skill every day.
I'd encourage you to take a look at the apprenticeship program for your future.
If you're looking for an opportunity, consider joining the Read and Read team. We've got great training opportunities available for apprentices right now. Visit our website at www.read-read.com for more information.
Audrey, before we proceed, could we just please make sure that everyone is able to see Margaret while the PowerPoint is up?
I'd like to take a minute. Can everyone see Margaret while the PowerPoint is up? Everything's okay? Awesome. All right, you're all set.
Oh,
Thanks
I'm
again,
hearing,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing that people are not seeing the interpreter.
Sorry, Audrey, we just got a message saying people can't see the interpreter. I am pinned, so I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we're doing a little bit of a technology adjustment. Hopefully people can see the interpreter soon, so we can go on with our presentation.
It does say we can see her now.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you for your patience, everyone. Go right ahead.
Thank you, everyone, once again for allowing us to share our story with you. And can we go to the next slide, please? So our company, Read and Read, was founded in 1928 and incorporated in 1982.
Todd, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're just getting some more saying they can't see the interpreter now. Video shows. Others should turn off their camera.
So what we just need to do, for those that need to see the interpreter, if they're able to minimize the PowerPoint, they should be able then to see the interpreter.
Did everyone hear that? If everybody that needs the interpreter can minimize the slideshow, the PowerPoint presentation, you might be able to see Margaret. So I don't know if that's working for everybody.
And I think you can minimize the slideshow by sliding it over using the cursor, and it should make it smaller and smaller and then enlarge the presenters. There should be a bar halfway through that you can do that. Oh, I see. And Sean Keegan writes, top right view button, click swap video in shared screen. And then the question is, Terry, can you swap the screen? Could someone please let us know if they're having any success with swapping the screen and seeing interpreters?
We're getting some messages that they're, oh, okay.
Okay, I've heard now it says,
It
Joe
looks like
says,
we're good to go.
okay, great.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Todd. Sorry
No
about
problem.
that.
So, that's okay. Our company, Read and Read, was founded in 1928 and incorporated in 1982. And just to put things in perspective a little bit, that was 1928 was the first year that we saw Mickey Mouse making an appearance in a video with sound. So, and Shirley Temple was also born in 1928. The original Batman, Adam West, and Bob Cousy, who is a Celtic legend and Hall of Famer. So, company has been around for quite some time. We're based in the booming metropolis of Woolwich, Maine. And although we're based in the mid-coast Maine area, our geographical footprint stems much further than that. Currently, we have projects in Rockingham, Vermont, Ossipee, New Hampshire, and in Maine from York all the way to Mattawamkeag. So we are a travel construction company, and we do some really cool projects, which we'll show you in just a second here. But I wanted to take this opportunity just to talk a little bit about travel, because that is one question that does come up quite a bit for a company like us that goes out there and does travel construction projects. And travel is a very important piece of the puzzle for us. And when I say that, I mean that really to be successful, you do have to have a license in transportation, because if not, you're relying on somebody else to get you to a project. And we all know how that turns out most of the time. Is your intent might be to get to the project and be there on time every day, but you're only as good as that person that you are riding with. So I would say, you know, as I talk to folks and I explain the travel, yes, you have to definitely have a willingness to go where the work is. We could have a project that's in your hometown for 2 to 3 years and you're able to sleep in your own bed every night, and that's great. But we also may have a project that might be 2 to 3 hours away and that you have to get there on your own, because we're not, as a company, putting you up in a hotel or actually busing you to work. So it's on you, the ownership, to get to the project and to get there on time and be able to work a full week. So our company does have a per diem policy, which will help give our team members a certain amount of money based on how far they are away from the project. And that's from their hometown to the job site. And it's the most direct route. So we're not going to allow folks to go 6 miles out of the way to get their Dunkin' and then 3 miles to get their breakfast sandwich. They have to take the most direct route. And if they're over 50 miles from home, they will qualify for this per diem, which will help them towards their gas or lodging. And what you often find, honestly, in this industry is that a lot of people, they'll share a ride, they'll share a room if they need to. They'll figure things out pretty quickly. And, you know, if you play your cards right, you can honestly make some money off the per diem as far as that goes. But I just wanted to take a moment and talk to you about the travel, because it is a very important piece to what we do. And if you're interested in that type of work, it will help that make you successful if you can get to work and get there on time. So can we go to the next slide, please? So our company focuses on heavy civil projects, marine projects, and renewable energy. So I've got here a series of bridges that we've built on the left-hand side, and you can see some photos on the right. And so real quick, the top one is the project we're working on in Gardner right now. And the lower left is the Veterans Memorial Bridge in Portland. So a lot of you folks have probably been over that bridge. And my personal favorite to the right is the Penobscot Narrows Bridge, because I'm from Bucksport. So I had crossed the old Waldo Hancock Bridge many times and have been over the Penobscot Narrows Bridge a lot as well. So that project was done in the mid-2000s. It was a joint venture with Chimbro Corporation. It was about an $85 million bridge. So in comparison, if you're looking at the old Waldo Hancock Bridge, which was done for just under $900,000, it's a lot of money. And the old Waldo Hancock Bridge was a cable suspension bridge, and which was held up by cables. And what happens to cables over 75 years of being exposed to elements? Well, they deteriorate. So they're not as strong as they once were. So when the state went to do some testing on the bridge, they really did fast track a new a bridge project, which we were fortunate enough to do, again, with Chimbro Corporation. And one funny thing about the old bridge is a lot of people don't know that the Waldo Hancock Bridge actually had a toll booth on it. So you had to pay a toll if you were crossing over the bridge. And it was I think a 10-cent toll for horse and buggy and a 50-cent toll for a vehicle. So they used that to help pay for the bridge. So the Penobscot Narrows Bridge, I'm sure a lot of you have been up that way. You go to Fort Knox and take a walk down. You can go up to the observation deck, which is about 420 feet up in the air. And you can see anywhere from Castine to Katahdin. And, you know, if it's a clear day, in a lot of the coastal area of the state of Maine for sure. And it's the tallest public bridge observatory in the world. So we have that right in our backyard, and proud to be I have a little piece in that project. So next slide, please. We also are one of the predominant wind power companies within the Northeast. And you can see here we've done Kibbe Mountain over in Western Maine. We're currently working on Weaver Wind in Aurora, finishing up that project as we speak. And up in the right-hand corner, if you've been up to the county, I'm sure you've seen the Mars Hill project, which was the first commercial wind project within the state of Maine. And there were 28 turbines up there. So that's kind of an iconic thing as you go and into Mars Hill, whether you're heading up to Madawaska or to the Presque Isle area, you can't help but see those. And they're pretty magnificent at night with the moon behind them. And one interesting tidbit about these projects is doing a little research on the Mars Hill project. They say from that project, you can see Mount Katahdin. And as I mentioned, you can also see Mount Katahdin from the Penobscot Narrows Bridge. So kind of links the two projects together. So next slide, please. So we've talked a little bit about who we are and what types of projects that we do and where our geographical footprint is. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about the people. And you know, the first line says it all. Our most valuable resource is the people that work for us. And I don't care if you're running a convenience store, if you're a store manager at Walmart, or a project manager on a construction site. If you do not have people, you are not going to get the job done. And so the folks that work for us are truly skilled, magnificent people, very good at what they do. And without them, we're not going to be around. And as you probably know, and have probably heard from many other employers in the area, it's really hard to hire people right now, especially skilled labor. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, you can see some of the folks that we hire. And I'm going to walk through here pretty quick just to give you an idea. If you're looking for work, these are some of the skill sets that we employ. Or if you're a client or if you have a client that might be looking for some work, you can help steer them in our direction too, based on what they might be looking for. So we hire anybody from a general construction laborer. So when you think of a laborer, that might be somebody that has little or no construction background. Maybe they've done a little, you know, home improvement. Maybe they've done some vocational technical training. They don't have a defined skill set. So this is a great way to start. Get your feet wet, get on the project, add some value, but also maybe get yourself into that apprenticeship pathway, or maybe get yourself some on-the-job training to learn how to be a carpenter. So there are a lot of wonderful, amazing, talented people on our job sites that if they see somebody that's got a little bit of ability and a good attitude, they're going to work with them and help train them. So laborers, you know, that's one thing a lot of people say, well, I don't have any construction background. That's okay. You know, everybody has to start somewhere. So if you're a laborer, you're looking for work, we do definitely hire entry-level laborers. We hire carpenters, and it's not your traditional carpenter. We're not a residential carpentry company where we're doing a lot of roofing or trim work or anything like that. Our folks are more like on the rough side. They're framing, they're doing concrete forms, they're tying rebar, they're doing finish work. So the carpenters are more like the bridge carpenters, or maybe you're building a pad for the wind turbine to sit on. So that's a little bit different than your traditional bridge carpenter, residential carpenter. But if you have those folks that have some of that ability, those skill sets are certainly transferable. If they have a knowledge of hand tools, power tools, can read a tape measure, can read some blueprints, we can train them in the rest of that. So skill sets are definitely transferable there. Structural welders, we hire quite a few welders. There aren't a lot of programs throughout the state of Maine that have welding. You see fewer CTE schools than what we once had that have welding programs, and we certainly have some community colleges out there, some adult ed, and a lot of companies will use their own in-house testing to certify their welders to make sure they're who they say they are and can weld on their projects. Read and Read uses the AWS. So if you've heard of the American Welding Society, they have their own individual tests that they perform. And right now there are 2 testing facilities in the state. There's Eastern Maine Community College in Bangor and Beale College also in Bangor. So we utilize those schools to test our welders, and our welders have to have a special D1.5 bridge certification, just basically based on the work that we do. So if you've got a candidate that's done a little welding on exhaust or on the farm, it's probably not going to be someone that's going to pass that test. So we do have an evaluation process to make sure we are sending somebody up there to test that we think can actually pass the test, because those tests are not cheap. They're very expensive, and we want to make sure we're investing our money in the folks that we think have a good shot to pass that test. So it is important that folks have some sort of some training, formal training to be a welder. Electricians, if you've ever tried to hire or actually get an electrician for a home project, you know they are in demand right now. We can't find electricians. We certainly reach out and we try, and we're very creative in our approach, but there's just not a lot of them out there. And there's really 3 tiers to that. You can get an electrical helper, which is really someone that might not have a lot of experience. You can have a JIT, which is an electrician that has passed the state of Maine test, but does not have the required hours yet to have their journeyman's license. and then you have your journeyman and masters, and we will hire all of those levels, to be honest with you. And again, it's something that we're always looking for. Crane operators, again, something we get asked a lot about. I just got asked the other day talking to an equipment operator. He's like, how do I get into a crane? And there's really not a great answer to that. A lot of that is on the job training and getting some training through the company, because there's really not a school around that offers formal crane training that you can go to here in Maine. So eventually they'll have to get their national certifications to be a crane operator. But it's something that we certainly employ a lot of. Construction specialists are folks that might be multi-skilled, might be folks that can run some crews when needed. They're diverse and they specialize in a lot of different areas, and are usually those folks that are going to be, your supervisors at some point down the road. We hire mechanics, truck drivers with our equipment and our cranes. We got to make sure that stuff's up to par, repaired, maintained, and we have to get that to all of our different job sites. And then, of course, we have our supervisors, our foremans, assistant superintendents, supers, engineers, project managers. And that's really, I put those last because all those tradespeople, whether you're a laborer or a welder, you have an opportunity to get into those roles down the road. We have a lot of folks through the baby boomer population that are retiring and presenting a lot of opportunities for folks that want to get into those supervisory roles. So our company does a great job at looking at the merit of folks and how they progress and getting them training so that someday they can take that step to be a foreman or a superintendent or even a project manager. So again, without people, we're not going to be successful. We're not going to be able to bid work because we won't have the people, and there's no sense bidding work if you don't have the people to do the jobs, because you're just not going to be successful. So clearly, again, regardless of what profession you're in, people are definitely the most valuable resource that you have, and you're only going to be as good as those folks that work on your sites. Next slide, please. So why construction? Why would you want to get into construction? Why would you want to kind of sway a client to get into construction? Well, numbers alone say that there's going to be some opportunities for folks. And the AWS, again, the American Welding Society, has said by the year 2024, there's going to be a shortage of 400,000 welders. And folks, that's not that far off. And we certainly feel the pinch. And I'll give you an example. I work pretty closely with a lot of the schools around. And one of the schools that I frequent is Eastern Maine Community College, and they have an associate program for welding. So you can have a 1-year certificate or a 2-year degree program, and they will start the first year with 24 welders, and only 14 get invited back to complete the second year. And when you go to their career fair, there's probably 20 plus companies there to try to hire 14 welders. So simple math will tell you that's not satisfying the demand that might be out there for companies. So again, nationwide, the AWS is saying there's going to be a massive shortage of welders. Construction workers in general, the Build Your Future, the BWF, through the Associated Builders and Contractors website, is estimating a shortage of 1 million folks needed by 2023. And again, you have that baby boomer population that's leaving and creating quite a void with that. But also just a lot of different projects popping up. I know we've been crazy busy in the entire time I've been at Read and Read, trying to hire folks and identify folks for certain projects that we have. So numbers alone should tell you, if you're looking for an opportunity to get into an industry that's going to have some needs that are long-term, construction is one of them. The pay is really good as far as what you can pay, get paid on an hourly basis. You can see here by the slide, the average electrician, they're saying about $67,000 a year. And I would say that's probably on the low side of an electrical pay. And, especially being self-employed, again, try to hire an electrician and see what you're paying them per hour that they come to your house and work. And we're not saying that you're going to start at $67,000. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's one thing that we have to proceed with caution and talk to folks, especially if they're starting as laborers. You have to earn it, right? You have to go and show that you're a good worker, that you're learning on the job. You know, if you're in an apprenticeship program, there might be a structured rate structure there. So it's going to take time and you have to be patient, but the earning potential down the road is huge for these trades. And then there's the job satisfaction. Every single one of us want to be in a job where we feel satisfied at the end of the day. And I challenge you to drive around with a construction worker and drive past projects that they've built, and they will point to a bridge and say, I built that. Well, there might have been 80 other people on that project, but their self-satisfaction will tell you that they built that project. Their family will say, well, that's Uncle Dan's project. So they take satisfaction in that job. And it's an industry where every single day you can look back and see your accomplishments, and not a lot of jobs are like that. And I think all of us, if we're doing any hands-on, right? I'm not a tradesperson, but I put in a dishwasher, last week. And so with that, of course it doesn't come with a power cord. So you got to do some electrical, you've got to do some plumbing, a little bit of carpentry, and then you sit back, and when that thing works and there's no leaks or issues, then you feel satisfied. And, I think if you're doing things with your hands and build, and you can see that on a daily basis, that progression, I think you go home with a strong job satisfaction. And those projects, if you're on the Penobscot Narrows Bridge, that bridge is going to be around for a very long time. So you can tell your family that you built that. So those are just some examples why, I would encourage you to check construction out as a career opportunity. The quote down below was the Bangor Daily News did an article, I think it was in 2018, where they said, good luck getting construction workers in Maine or anywhere else for that matter. And you can fact check it, it's real. It was an article that was out there, and they were just going through the same thing I said about the challenges in the industry to get good people. And, we talk to the vocational CTE schools all the time, and we're always in front of them, and we're like, what do you have coming out? And we're always encouraging them to send us more students or have more students in the program. So, that being said, that's one reason alone, just to take a look at the industry. We're not going away. There's always going to be building. Even during a pandemic, this is an essential industry, so work continues. Next slide, please.
And we're going to take a moment just to switch interpreters as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just like
Okay, we're good.
Good. Okay. So with all that being said, what do we look for in a candidate? If we were building somebody, what are some traits that we would look for? And of course, the attitude is always, regardless, one of the first things that you look for, and is pretty easily identifiable. Just give you an example, I've coached a lot of youth sports over the years, for many, many years, from Little League to basketball. And Little League is always a perfect example, because you might have 11 and 12-year-old kids, and we all know that's a lot of fun. So most kids have great attitudes. They just want to play ball. But then you've got that one or two kids that, their attitude is terrible, and their parents are no better, and you have to deal with that. So I think as a coach or a project manager, or, somebody that's a supervisor, those people take 90% of your time managing them, and as opposed to the rest of the team. So, the attitude is paramount. We want folks that have a good attitude. Not everybody's going to have a great day every single day. We get that. But for the most part, someone that shows up, you want to be around, you want to work with, those folks are great for the team. The aptitude, this was explained to me years ago, and I was a little confused by it, but someone once said, we're looking for people that have a strong aptitude, somebody that has something between their ears, meaning a brain, right? Somebody that can think, somebody that, we can grow and feed and develop and build into, that supervisor or that carpenter or whatever that case may be. I was working with a CTE instructor at a local high school, building trades instructor, and we have a pretty good relationship. And I was talking to his students, and he was kind of discouraged with his class, and he was like, I just don't have a lot of good kids coming through right now. And he said, I had to he gave an example. He's like, I actually had to go to the bathroom and I had to put up all these signs that say, please remember to flush the toilet when you're done. And it seems pretty simple, but he's like, they can't even flush a toilet. And so he's like, I want to give you people that can flush a toilet. So when we think of aptitude, we're thinking about, you know, that person that can come in and flush the toilet, show up every day, have something between their ears that we can grow and develop and keep fed, have a hunger for learning, basically. Availability, we might have the best welder in the world, the best electrician, the best carpenter, but if they can't make it to work, they're really no good, right? I mean, what good are their skill sets if they're not going to be there, if they're calling in sick every day, if they're always battling something that's keeping them, away from the company. So availability is a huge piece of this. And then we have adaptability. I think we all know a little bit about this in the year 2020 is, life doesn't go as we plan, and there's always curveballs being thrown at us. And in construction, things change every single day. We're faced with different weather conditions. We're faced with, all right, you're supposed to be on this project, but there's a need 3 hours away. We're going to send you there. Okay, well, you're working days right now. Well, maybe we need to put a night crew together to do some, traffic, to do some work against the traffic flow. So, you have to have people that are adaptable on a daily basis in what they do. And that's going to, especially in our industry, be a huge benefit. So I know it's pretty simple, but I wanted to put the A's out there and to kind of give you a couple examples there about what I really am talking about. Is, there was one candidate that I was working with years ago, and I was working with the Eastern Maine Development Corporation, and they would kind of feed me some folks that they thought would be a good fit for the organization. And they sent over a young lady, and they were like, she really has a strong interest in welding, but she doesn't have a lot of background. So I interviewed her, and, we realized that she was not going to be a welder. So I encouraged her to go to seek some training. So she went through Eastern Maine Development Corporation, got some funding, and took a night class at United Technology Center in Bangor. And after taking that for several weeks, she really showed a lot of improvement. And she came back and said, yeah, I finished the class. I feel good about where I'm at. And we put her in front of the instructor, and the instructor was like, yeah, she's doing really well, and I would recommend her for training. So this was somebody that really had zero background and got into her training program and progressed to the point where she was a trainee, got all of her certifications, and then proceeded to not only be content with her structural, but went on to get pipe and boiler tube and basically any training that she could get. And that just says a lot about not only her aptitude to pick things up, but also her attitude to go out there and do that. And I have another example too. As I was at the University of Maine a few years ago, and I was interviewing for college interns, and a freshman walked in, didn't really have any construction background, but you just had the feeling when that person left that person was a rock star. She was somebody that you wanted to get on the team. She was an engineer, and in high school she took truck driving and building trades. And I was like, it was the CTE Student of the Year. I'm like, why did you take, truck driving? She's like, well, I figure if I'm going to be on a project and being an engineer or a project manager on a site, I might want to understand the work and the scope of it and what takes place. So she's like, I got every bit of training I could. And this person was, as I thought, she just had that attitude and pretty much checked all the boxes here for the A's. And she came on board and was pretty much running crews as an intern and just progressed into a full-time hire down the road. So, these are just some examples of things that we look for in our candidates. And I'm not saying every single one of them is going to check every single box here, but as we're looking to identify talent, these are some things that can help us in that endeavor. Next slide, please. So basically, just wanted to outline quickly the application process with Read and Read, just to kind of walk you through what you could expect. And the first thing is to apply. I mean, if you haven't filled out an application, we don't know you're interested. We're not mind readers here. So you would go on our website, and I think most companies are web-based nowadays where they take online applications, and you would fill out your application online. And, you know, do keep in mind that your application obviously is the first thing that an employer is going to see. So it's paramount that you fill it out entirely, that you give us good information. I always compare the application to a movie. So a lot of us have been to the movies, not in the last several months, but when you go to the movies and you're there to see, you know, your movie, they have all the trailers that start before the prime attraction there, and they're like a minute long, and they're just previews. And within that minute, you're making the decision if you're going to go see that movie or if you're not. It's pretty clear when I go and I'm nudging my wife and saying, yeah, we're going to go see that one, or no, we're not. So the application is kind of the same way. If you leave the application completely blank with no information, it's probably going in the receptacle, right? If you have you know, this is a legit email I had a couple of years ago. I smoke weed, yada, 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 at gmail.com. That's not a great first impression for the employer. You know, you can go sign up and get a professional email address. So there's many things on that application that you can do to set yourself apart. The phone number alone, I mean, how many times have we tried to call people for interviews and they don't answer, their voicemail is not set up, the voicemail box is full, or the greeting is just really not appropriate. Those are red flags. So again, that application is that first step to see if we want to go see that movie. If we do, then we'll progress to an interview. Again, in 2020, things have changed quite a bit. You know, every single interview I used to do was face-to-face, and nowadays it's you know, either a Zoom or a phone call. And it's a lot different in this day and age than it has been in the past. It's harder to judge people. It's harder to really get a chance to meet and see that person. So we're relying on technology the best we can to make hiring decisions. But the interview is something where, you know, just a couple helpful hints is when you do go in for the interview, you want to be early. That's the first impression that you're giving that employer. And if you're late, there's no excuse for it. With technology and GPS, you should be able to get to that place on time, if not 10 or 15 minutes early. Be respectful to every single person you come in contact with. I used to have a receptionist. Her name was Betty. She was the most amazing woman out there, and she was about 75 years old. And what a lot of folks didn't know is she and her husband ran a very successful construction company, and she knew the business and she knew people. And if you were rude to Betty, you were not getting a job. So you always hear treat the janitor the same as you would the CEO, and that's true. Make sure you come with questions. Use that interview as an opportunity, you know, not only for the employer to interview you, but make sure you interview the the employer, because that's a way to get your questions answered. What are your benefits? What's your, travel like? We want to make sure that it's a fit for you, but also make sure you're a fit for us. And, you know, follow up. It's always good to follow up, and, a simple email, call, text. You know, I don't need a thank you card in the mail. In fact, one of the craziest things I ever got was a fruit basket as a thank you, and it was a little odd if you ask me. And someone else brought in some baked goods as a thank you. Yeah, I don't want that stuff. A thank you's good, and don't call every single day to see where we're at with the application. That gets a little alarming as well. So, and on the next step, if that interview goes well, then we get into our references, and we do check references, and we're looking for people that you've worked for through an employer, or maybe, you know, it's a welding instructor at the school, and those references will say a lot. And one that, you know, comes to mind is, this was a few years ago now, but we interviewed this candidate, a very skilled individual, and we wanted to check references, and we called his employer. They said he was a hothead. He had a lot of anger issues. You want to stay away from him. And so we did, and we told him that. We didn't tell him who the employer was. We didn't tell him exactly what they said. We just said, based on, you know, some references, we have decided not to move forward. Well, this guy came to the office, and he was very hot-headed, so the reference was pretty spot on. And the very next day, he actually went and he held up his former employer by gunpoint. So you can see, you know, those references do say a lot. And I've talked to a lot of instructors out there, and they'll sit right in front of the class and they'll say, you know, if you put me down as a reference, I'm gonna tell the truth. So if you're late, if you're no good, that employer is going to know that. So references gives us a little bit more information, you know, to that candidate and helping our hiring decision. And then if we move on from that, we have a drug test that we set up and pay for. There's a drug test and there's a physical component as well. So again, with our work, you know, some of the things that you have to consider is you have to be able to do physical labor. And I'm not a tradesperson, but when I do home projects for 8 hours a day, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. So these people are construction athletes. A friend of mine who played some college football, he's like, and he works in the trades now. He's like, this is nothing. He's like, I might have had a football game on a weekend and maybe 10 hours of practice during the week, but it's nothing compared to construction. This is physical labor. You're on your feet 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You're doing physical labor in the elements. You're traveling to and from work. So it's very physical, and you have to be able to physically do those projects, the tasks that are assigned. And you know, you have to be able to work at heights. If I'm talking 420 feet to an observation deck, you know, that bridge deck may not be that high, but you're still on a bridge that's above water. So how do you feel about working above water? How do you feel about working at heights? And how do you feel about working in the elements in general? You know, it gets a little chilly up here in Maine in the wintertime. And if you're above the water working on a bridge project, it's going to be a little bit cold. And, you know, the safety, we want to make sure folks are working safe, and we're going to give them all the tools to be successful and be safe, but people still have to make good decisions, you know, and we ask folks to have their own pair of work boots, right? They have to have work boots, and we'll provide everything else safety-wise. And safety has come a long way in this industry. And if you look at some of the old pictures of the bridges being built back in the day, they'd always have that little boat down in the water. Well, that boat was there to retrieve bodies if they fell, right? So fortunately, we don't see that nowadays anymore. But we still want to put safety front and center. So you do have to have people that can physically do the work and work in all those environments. And with that being said, we do have a drug test as part of our process as well. So you go and you do the physical, and the physical is very labor intensive. You do have to do a lot of heavy lifting, and then that decision is based on the doctor or the medical professional, whether or not they feel you're fit for duty and can work for us. It's not something we determine. We're going to leave that to the professionals, but they will tell us if that person is able to physically perform the work we're going to ask them to do. And then there's a drug test, there's pass fail. And one of the questions that comes up all the time, we get this is, well, I have a medical marijuana card, or I smoke. And that's something that's going to be tested. It's not going to prevent you necessarily from getting a job with us. But that is something that comes up all the time. So again, there is a drug test and an extensive physical that we have to get reported out through the medical professionals to say that you're fit for duty to work in this industry and work for Read and Read. And then we have our orientation. So our orientation is kind of like a day you come in. It may not even be a complete day, but you fill out all your paperwork. You issue your protective equipment, and then we get you your assignment and head you off to work. So that's kind of the application process in a nutshell. I did list our website on here as well, so that is where folks can go. They go to read-read.com. There's a job openings page, and then they can click on whatever job they're qualified for, from entry-level laboring to superintendent. So next slide, please. So as far as our benefits, I would throw our benefits out there against anybody in our industry, and we have really good benefits. So we have competitive wages. I'm not going to get into the wage structure. I mean, every particular trade that we have has a range from, you know, the inexperienced to the highly experienced folks, and there's a lot of variables with that. I will just say that we have competitive wages, and there's opportunities to grow in that through annual performance reviews and through a merit-based system where folks can come in at one wage and then see themselves grow over time. And that's something we're very cognizant of, and we really, you know, pay a lot of attention to make sure we're paying our folks what they are worth. We offer all the insurances, medical, dental, vision insurance is very good rates, HSA plan that we will contribute to, so you can use that towards medical expenses. If not, if you're healthy and you don't go, then it grows and it's a savings account for you. We have profit sharing opportunities through an employee stock ownership program. So if the company is successful and has a good year, then we're able to share, that success with the team members. And we have a 401k plan, which, we talk to a lot of folks, and especially the younger folks, they really don't think they need to put money away for retirement right now. And we always tell them, and I think every one of us can attest, we wish we'd put more money away when we were young. My son's in the Air Force, and he went in at 17, and he's now 19, and he's putting a lot of money into his retirement down there. And I'm thinking, he's like, well, why shouldn't I? I don't have any expenses, everything's paid for. So he's like, I'm going to put a lot in now. And he's got the right mindset, and our company will actually match $7,500 a year. So wow. It's significant, to be able to, help those team members, not only by giving them a job now and a way of life currently, but also helping them plan and transition into that retirement age. So again, that match is crazy good. And the referral plan, we also have a referral bonus, and this is another amazing benefit, where if you are working for the company and you have a friend, family member, somebody that you think would be a good fit, and I will dive into that a little bit. We're not looking for warm bodies. And I had an engineer that I dealt with way back in the day, and he's like, oh, did they pass the mirror test? Basically, can they breathe? And we're going to hire them. Well, we're not like that. We're not looking for someone to fog up a mirror. We're looking for the A's. We're looking for those good candidates. So if we have somebody that's working on a job site and they're referring somebody, we're going to ask them, if they show up to a job site and they're going to be working with you 50, 60 hours a week, is that a good thing? That's what we're looking for, somebody that, if we hired them, they would be excited about. And so if we do hire somebody based on a referral through a team member, we're going to give that team member $1,000. So, you can do the math and just say it's going to take a few, referrals to get a nice bonus there. So again, the benefits are amazing here. And that's, again, one thing with us is you get well taken care of. And for construction in Maine, this is year-round work with no layoffs. So we're not seasonal. People say, hey, do you slow down in the winter? No, sometimes in the winter we're busier than in the summertime. It just depends on what we have going on for work. But we're not going to, as long as your performance is good and you're flexible and adaptable, we'll keep you working somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So that should be a good thing. And this time of year, we see a lot of our people that are getting laid off in paving, or they're residential people and they don't do much in the wintertime. So there's a lot of companies out there that are seasonal, and that's not us. We work year round. We work through, all the 4 seasons where, we don't lay people off if they're performing, and we're going to give them a chance to grow in their career if they're doing well. So the benefits are really good. Next slide, please.
Hi, could we pause for just one moment and switch interpreters? Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm just about done here. So I just wanted to say, that your hard hat is waiting for you. That's kind of a line there. But, in addition to the website, social media plays a big role in the world nowadays, obviously. But it's a good networking tool for folks through the job search process. If you're looking for companies to potentially be interested in, follow the company on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, MeWe, whatever the newest one is out there nowadays. And it's great to go out there and do your homework on the companies. And what better way to go to the Read and Read Facebook page and see what people are saying. Before I came to the company, I remember seeing that when COVID first started, that the company sent everybody home for 2 weeks to kind of get a handle on things, but paid them. So these folks were sitting home and they got paid to do so. And I remember thinking that was amazing to do that, and really a nice gesture to make sure we're going to get our hands around this first. we're going to pay you to sit home, and then we're going to bring you back, right? So really cool thing to see out there. And I did see that on social media. So, follow companies, like companies out there. And that way, maybe you're not looking for a job now, but 6 months down the road, Todd or Robin posts a job and you say, wow, hey, they're looking for a truck driver. That's what I am. That's what I want to do. So, it gives you an opportunity to keep up to speed with what's going on. Maybe you see they get a big project in a certain town that you might live in and be like, all right, this is 3 years worth of work right here. I'm going to go apply at Read and Read. So not only can you get some good reviews and information on social media, but you can, keep in touch with the company and kind of see what the pulse is and what's going on, and that might help make some hiring decisions for you. So, but basically that is my presentation in a nutshell. Hopefully I gave you a little bit more information about who we are, the types of projects that we work on, and the types of candidates that we look for, and why we are the employer of choice. So thank you very much, folks, and have a great day.
Wow. Thank you so much, Todd, for that informative and comprehensive presentation about your company and all that you do. I really appreciate it. I feel like I know a little bit more beyond what Jacob has told me about what he's doing. And that kind of brings up a couple of questions. I'd like to ask you a question, and then perhaps Robin a couple of questions before we open up the chat box, Sam, to see if anyone else has questions. I'm wondering, since we as voc rehab counselors in our experience with apprenticeships, we know that there is a mentor assigned and a schedule of work. Could you describe a little bit to me about how that goes about, like, for instance, in Jacob's case? Oh, you're muted.
Oops. Do you want me to answer that or Todd?
Either one. Robin, if you would like to, that'd be awesome.
Okay. So typically when we put someone on site, especially now that we have the apprenticeship program, we assign someone on site to work directly with them. There is a schedule of work. It's provided to both the superintendent on site and also to the apprentice. And the goal is to make sure that they get the training that they need to get to advance to the next stage. And each program is based on hours. So there are certain hours assigned to each particular task. So the superintendent will work with the person he assigns to be the mentor, and they communicate back and forth. I send them evaluations, not even on a schedule, just kind of based on the hours that he works, and they evaluate his progress and make sure that he's progressing at a level that's acceptable to both him and us.
That's great. So could you tell me a little bit too about how would an apprentice go about requesting accommodation?
Once they've gone through the physical and the drug screen, if they pass the physical and we've offered them a job, they passed the physical and a drug screen, the next step is the orientation. And at that point, if there was a need for an accommodation, if it's something that we could do, we're more than happy to try and do that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. And do you have any automatic disqualifiers for those seeking employment, such as criminal histories?
We do not do background checks. And to be honest with you, some of the most successful employees we've hired were from where they had a criminal background, and they came actually from the local jails. They show up every day. They're always on time, and they never complain. And most of those that we hired actually were in a program, a work release program through the jail. So we know they're going to get to work every day, and they don't want to go back and spend the day at the jail. So they're more than happy to work, and they give it 100%.
That's great. And while I have your ear, I'd like to know a little bit more specifically about Jacob. Could you just kind of give us, since we saw his example, how he's doing and what your thoughts are?
So I was very impressed with Jacob. He came in and interviewed with me, and it was just a a everyday interview. We talked a lot about his previous experience and what he'd been doing, and he'd done a lot of training in advance. And our process with the apprentice is to put them on for a month or so, see how they do. Again, as Todd said, we're looking for people who show up every day on time, have a good attitude, and they want to grow with the company. And Jacob certainly met that criteria. And I offered him the apprenticeship after that point. And strangely enough, not long after we had enrolled him and he was actually working out in the field, I got a call from a counselor just asking for some feedback. And I had no idea. And I met him face to face, talked to him several times. I had no idea that he had any kind of disability. He never told me. He didn't act like he had anything going on. He didn't need an accommodation. He just went out there and he was himself. And the one thing that I really noticed, Jake is very, very shy. I kind of had to pull information out of him, but I figured he's young, and often the younger generation doesn't give you a lot of information. And the few times that I've been out on the site and actually talked to him and we did this video, Jacob has he's grown some confidence. He believes in himself. He's gained a lot of skill. He's working really well with the crew. And he's fortunate, he's really on a project site with a lot of younger guys that are kind of like him. They're growing and they're developing their skills and they're sharing their knowledge with him. And then he's got the more tenured group of folks who are actually mentoring him. So they're all kind of learning together. But the most telling thing about Jacob is that he has really gained a lot of confidence in himself and in his ability.
Well, thank you for that, because I think that's one of the biggest things that we as vocational rehabilitation counselors run up against sometimes is the lack of confidence and the self-efficacy that a lot of our folks might have. Finding a job is not easy. You know, it's a job to find a job, but well, thank you for that information. I'm going to turn this over to Samantha to see if we have any questions in the chat box. Sam, do we have anything?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Audrey. We have at this point one question and directed to Robin and Todd. And the question is there an age requirement? And this came up, Todd, when you were talking about all the positions. And is there summer apprenticeship opportunities for high school students?
Sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, we actually we'd like to reach out to those vocational and technical and maybe just folks looking for summer work to give them the opportunity to work in the trades for the summer. And that's not only with high school, graduating high school folks, but also the engineers at college. We have a formal, college internship program, but we will also take those folks and that may just be looking for some experience, in the industry for a summer and work them in a crew. So what better way to get experience, right, is that, we always tell those students, hey, if you're studying, to be an engineer or whatever, get out to the field and get some experience while you can and just grow on that every year, because if you're going to want to eventually be an engineer or project manager, you have to have that background to understand the crew and the work and what takes place to be a successful manager. So yeah, we absolutely take high school folks and college folks as well.
Minimum age is 18 though.
Right.
Are there any other questions?
Not at this time, Audrey.
All right, well, thanks, Sam. We're going to be putting up some slides for contact information for all the folks that presented today. That will be coming up. And I want to thank all of our presenters today from the Department of Labor and for our featured employee spotlight from Reed and Reed, Robin Wood and Todd Gilley. Thank you for being here today, everybody, and be sure to watch for more employee spotlights in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we all want to just hang in until the end and then touch base?
Sure.
Till everybody's gone.
Yep, just giving people a minute to look at the contact information if they'd like.
There's one little contact slide, I believe.
Yes, yep.
Getting a lot of thank yous in the box, very helpful information, very informative.